All right, so this is the lesson video for the Marriage of Figaro. If I keep looking over to the side, it's because I'm looking at my picture instead of looking at the camera. Cool. I'm doing this on my new iPad, trying to get it to work. Cool. Cool. All right, let's do screen sharing. We are going to go. All right, so this is what we are talking about today. We are talking about the Marriage of Figaro Overture. So do you see how the Marriage of Figaro, those words are thicker, they're in a bold font, and then under it, it's got just the normal font of Overture. Overture is like the intro, the really, really, really long intro to an opera. Operas tell a story. They're like a movie, but there's no talking aloud. You're only allowed to sing. If you need to say something, you have to do it like this. My name is Miss H, and I like to teach music, and this is how I talk. You're not allowed to actually use your talking voice. You have to sing the entire time. So an overture is just the way that it starts. It plays a bunch of music. It takes the themes, those main ideas of popular things that are in the show. So that way you get to hear it already, but you don't hear anybody sing it. So you don't know who's doing it, what it's for, if it's the good guy song, if it's the bad guy song. It's a bunch of craziness. And speaking of craziness, The Marriage of Figaro is one of the craziest operas that has been written. It's a show about two peasants, meaning two people that are poor, that have to work for this really rich dude. And his wife doesn't like him. His wife would rather be married to somebody else, but her parents said, no, you have to be married to this guy. Well, the two poor people, the two peasants, the two workers, are getting married. And the guy that's in charge, the bad guy, is like, no, we're going to find some way to mess up this marriage because I don't like you too. And it's just craziness. And they have to figure out how on earth to get married. And it's just, it's a mess. I should know. I was in it in college. It's just crazy. So this show, this opera was extremely popular, super popular, because it made fun of the rich people. So the normal people, because there's just a couple of rich people, but there's a lot of normal poor people. So the normal people were like, it's funny because the normal people win instead of being, the losers at the end of the story. It makes fun of the rich people. So, very complicated story. There's like 5 things happening. Goes really quick. It's not very long. But the title character, Figaro, let's see if I can write on my screen. I don't think I can. I'll write on it in a second. He's also in another opera called The Barber of Seville. That's where he meets the girl that he's dating. So it's like part 2, how there's Frozen and then there's Frozen 2. This one is the 2. All right, let's go find the picture of our guy. So this right here on the screen, his name is Mozart. This is actually an older picture of Mozart. Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, actually was a child prodigy. That means when he was like 5 years old, so younger than y'all, when he was like 5 years old, he started writing music. He was really good at playing the violin and the piano. He also played the special kind of piano called a harpsichord. And he just, oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my thing. It says 3 years old. He started doing all of this stuff when he was 3. And then when he turned 5, he started writing music. So he's really good at playing instruments when he was 3. And then he got really good at writing music out when he was 5. And he wrote these whole big things, whole big symphonies. We've talked about symphonies. They're like the chapter books. So he started writing a bunch of symphonies when he was 3 years old. Or, sorry, when he was 5 years old. Then when he turned 7, his dad took him and his sister to go perform for the rich people. So in court. So he performed for kings, queens, lords, ladies, princes, princesses, dukes, duchesses, everything like that. Okay. Really popular, really, really, really smart. And he wrote his first opera when he was 11. So when he's writing his symphonies, he just has to write for a bunch of different instruments. But when he writes his operas, he has to write for a bunch of different instruments and for people to sing. And he has to actually tell a story. And he has to be like, okay, and when we perform this, these people are going to be standing here. It takes a lot more work to write a symphony than it does, to write an opera than it does a symphony. So Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, we're just going to call him Mozart. I know it should be Mozart, but it's Mozart. He is from Austria, not Australia, not good day, mate, Austria. So basically, he's from Germany. When you get older, you'll find out that Austria is actually the home for a lot of music stuff. But people don't actually know that, and so they're like, oh, he's German, because they're right next door to each other. And that's all I'm going to talk about Mozart, okay? We do have some vocab words that we need to talk about. So let me go back to Zoom. Yeah, we're still recording. So some vocab words that we have. We have overture. And I've talked about overture. Overture is just an orchestral piece, which means it uses the orchestra. And it's at the beginning of an opera. So it's like the intro to the opera. Okay? The overture is like the intro to the opera. Then we have another vocab word that we're going to talk about. And it is opera. An opera is a story that is told through music. And is sung the entire time. No talking. Okay? So it's just a story that we use music for. And they still have to make sounds with their mouth, but they use their singing voices and they're not allowed to talk. And our last vocab word, which we talked about a little bit in Liberty Fanfare, is crescendo. Crescendo. A crescendo starts soft and slowly, sorry, I can't write and talk at the same time, gets louder. So it starts on the soft end over here where it's small, and it gets louder at the end where it's really big. Cool? Kind of talked about that in Liberty Fanfare. So if you're confused, there's more answers in Liberty Fanfare, okay? I'm back. Okay, we're going back to sharing the screen. So we can go look at the music map. Remember Mr. Mozart? He's right there. Let's go find that music map. I think I want it in here. Yeah, okay. So we have this music map. I'm going to try to find a way that we can still see it and not get in trouble on my end. But we have really fancy dresses. Do you see the really fancy dresses? I don't know if I can write on here. I can't write on here. We have some really fancy dresses over in this first section. Like, it's a fancy dress and it has fancy things all around it. Okay, so we have one of those fancy dresses. We have another one of those fancy dresses. And then we have a fancy dude. Yes, looks funny, but this is actually what the guy's dressed like. And then we have not so fancy. We have normal people. Guess what? That's Figaro and the girl that he's dating, that he's going to marry. Because they're normal people. So they don't have to be as fancy because they actually do work. They actually have to dress like they got to do stuff instead of, oh, I'm in this fancy stuff and I don't want it to get dirty. And then we go down here and, oh, look, we have another fancy dress and another fancy dress. And then, oh, look, another fancy dude. Super fancy dude. A violin. And then we come down here and we have, I know this looks like a fancy dress, but this is actually a normal dress. This is another picture of the girl that Figaro is going to marry, because that looks like a wedding dress, but it's not super fancy because it's not super puffy. And then that is actually what normal gentlemen would wear. So this is a picture for Figaro. And then we have the very important part of the wedding, which is the wedding cake. And I think in the video, they build the cake. So it starts with just the stand and then the big piece, and then it goes up. You're going to hear with each picture. So like how these two fancy ladies are the same picture, it's going to sound the same. And then it's going to sound different with that guy. Okay. And then when we have these two fancy ladies, they're going to sound the same. And then it's going to sound different than that fancy guy. Okay. So we have this section, which we're calling A because it's the first one. And then we go over here. And it looks very much like A, but we're missing a couple of things. Okay. We're still going to call it A because it's very similar. Deal? All right. Then we have all these fancy things at the end where he finally gets to be married to the girl of his dreams. All right. Let me go find the music map so we can watch it. We're going to listen to it and everything like that. Let me make sure my sound is on. Yeah.
The Marriage of Figaro, Overture by Mozart. The Marriage of Figaro, Overture by Mozart.
I'm back. Hopefully I won't forget to, make it where you can see what I'm saying. I might have a word search for you to do with this. I'll pass it out later. Yeah, nope, I think that's it. Cool. All right, so that's going to be the end of this video. Hopefully everybody can find it. Hopefully everybody can find everything that's in the description go down, find that description. There should be a single link that's going to have a bunch of extra stuff on it if you follow it. Deal? Okay. One of those links is going to be the link to this video. Don't worry about that one because clearly you've already seen the video. But there's going to be a link to the music map so that way you can see it. There's going to be a link to other lessons from the other people that make this stuff. They can explain it better than I can. Just different things because, learning from different people is always great. Okay, so find that link down there. I should have the title, who wrote this, my little blurb, so that way if YouTube comes at me saying I'm doing something wrong, I got myself covered. And then there should be the link for you. Okay. All right. Bye. Thank you so much for your hard work.